Okay, the goal of this assignment, the 125, design a wall. So you have to submit this by January 30th. Is to design with REVIT a wall in which the U value is between 0.02 and 0.03. Okay. So first we have to open REVIT, and you know that if by default we create a generic wall like this, we can edit type and edit the structure, and we can create here different layers. So what are the layers? Well, it doesn't matter. We can create something very simple, and if we have a thermal insulation, so here we have, see, we have insulation. Okay, so we have rigid insulation. This is extruded polystyrene. And if we click OK, and we have, let's say, 8 inches, probably 8 inches would be enough. Well, 10 inches for sure that it will work. Okay, so here you see that the heat transfer coefficient, the U value, is 0.0243. And the R value, it's 41. Okay, so everything that it's above 40 in terms of thermal resistance, it works. So just by having 10 inches of thermal insulation, of rigid insulation, it works. The problem is that the wall, we need something else. Minimum, we always need 3 layers. So one of the layers should be above the rigid insulation, and the other layer should be underneath. So this is exterior and this is interior. So at least we need an exterior finish that can be to have vinyl, or we don't, but we do have plywood. We can have a plywood sheeting outdoors. It's not very recommendable, but we can have it. And inside we can have a gypsum board. Yeah, we do have gypsum board. And what's the thickness? We can have 1/2 inch of this and 1/2 inch here. Okay, so it works as long as we have enough thermal insulation. That's going to work. So this basic wall will meet the requirements. If you click here, fine. You can see here the layers. If you edit type and select the wall, type and edit the structure, and we can see this. So that would be enough. You can take a screenshot of this, and then you can paste it in a PowerPoint, and that meets the requirements. But I want to compare this to this option. Okay, so in this option, we can try to do the same wall here. We have plywood, we have rigid insulation, we have gypsum board. So let's do that. We have plywood. Let's put here 1/2 inch. Rigid insulation, it's a polystyrene. 10 or 10 inches. And here we have gypsum board, 1/2 inch. And now we have to check the thermal conductivity. So here, thermal conductivity of plywood is 0.75. Say 0.75. Polystyrene here, it's 0.17. And the gypsum board, thermal conductivity, gypsum board, here it's 0.98. Okay, so what is the, according to this spreadsheet, what is the R value? It's 60. And what is the U value? 0.02. I think it's better if we right click here and change the format. If we add another decimal place, I think it will work better. So it's 0.16. Okay, so we have used the same materials, the same thickness, and the values are different in REVIT in this Excel file. Why? Because the thermal conductivity can be different. So can we find out thermal conductivity of plywood in REVIT? Yes, we can. If we go to thermal properties, the thermal conductivity here is 0.0612. What is the thermal conductivity of plywood here? Plywood. Okay, so it's not this one. Remember that for REVIT units, we have this column, the yellow column here, okay? So the plywood, it's 0.062. So I think it's the same, 0.061, 0.062. I think the difference is gonna be in the rigid insulation. So if we select rigid insulation, thermal conductivity is 0.02. What's the thermal conductivity of polystyrene? Polystyrene here is 0.01. Okay, so it's much lower than this. Why? Well, there are different manufacturers for this polystyrene, and these can be different. But if we put here, instead of 0.17, if we type here 0.3 or 0.25. Okay, so this is 41 and this is 0.04. Okay, so it's a question about using the same thermal insulating materials here and here. But it's tricky because the units are different. Here the units are BTU, hour, feet, Fahrenheit. And here the units are BTU, inch, hour, feet square, Fahrenheit. Okay, but what we have to understand is that thermal insulating materials are materials in which the thermal conductivity is around 0.2, 0.3, 0.1. Okay. And other non-insulating materials, the thermal conductivity, it's much higher. That's it. And then we have to go to the manufacturer to see what is the actual thermal conductivity that we're going to use. Okay. Anyway, so that would be the first option. I recommend you do this a few times. So if you go to the previous assignment, with this one, the thermal resistance, the 124. If we open this, okay, so here we have 3 different walls. So let's do this option. So in REVIT, we will have a sandstone. So let's edit, or let's I'm going to edit type, and I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to name it wall 1. Okay, because we are here working with wall 1. Edit structure. First, we need the materials. So the first one would be sandstone. And the first thing is that we don't find sandstone here. So what do? We can open this material library. And on this material library, we have different things. Sandstone is stone. So do we have sandstone? Not really. We have granite, limestone, marble. We don't have sandstone. So we can select this one, stone, by default. And then let's look at the thermal properties of this. And thermal conductivity is 1.6 by default. So again, depending on the sandstone, there are thousands of kinds of sandstones in the world. So we can try to find sandstone thermal conductivity. And thermal conductivity, usually we have information about the international system, but you see that there's a range. So it's 3.36 plus or minus 0.79. So it's around 2 point something to almost 4 or to 4 point something, depending on what kind of sandstone we have here. But if the units are BTU, hour, feet, Fahrenheit, those are the REVIT units. And so here we have the engineering toolbox. And do we have sandstone here? Yeah, it's 1.7. But again, this is the international units. We have to click on these blue units, and then we have to find the sandstone again. Where's the sandstone? Sandstone, it's 0.98 according to this website. And here we have, look at this, 1.67. Okay, if we rely on this, we can type here 0.98. And now we have this sandstone, okay? So the first layer would be stone, and the thickness is 1 inch. 1 inch. 1. Second layer, air. I think we do have air as a material here. Third, brick. Brick. And the air thickness is 2 and brick 4. This is 2 and the brick is 4. And we have more layers. We have glass, wool, insulation, and plywood. So I have to insert a new layer, move it down, and that would be glass wool. I'm sure that we don't have glass wool, but here in this material we have rock wool, which is almost the same. So we can insert this one. Okay, so that would be rock wool and 5 inches. And finally, we need a new layer, plywood. We do have plywood. By plywood. Okay, and 1 inch. We click OK, and here we have the, okay, so this is 35 and it's 0.028, so it meets the requirements. So again, you can copy this with all layers and this here. Okay, so just copy. If we download this one, okay. So if you create the same wall with this file and the same wall with Revit, and then create a PowerPoint with this, that would be enough. And make sure that this value is between 0.02 and 0.003. And that's it. Upload it on Canvas, and this is all you have to do for this assignment.